BS Nagesh of Shoppers Stop joins in to talk about all those recommendations that were put forth yesterday. Nagesh, morning. Now, this is the interesting one. This time around, the DIPP puts a question mark to it, and this says, what do you guys think the cap should be in terms of FDI? Whereas, as we know, the draft paper talked about putting it at 51%. Would you read it as a tacit step back, or do you think they're just playing fair?
No, I think the draft paper is a very, very good move. I think it has put a lot of things transparently on the paper, the ifs and buts and pros and cons. To me, as an industry body in Retailers Association, we have not taken a response or a view on this as of now. We will reply to this and definitely as a stakeholder participate. I personally believe that FDI in retail is important, and it could start with 49, go to 51, and then go on to the next level. More important is that the more front-end retail spreads, we know that all over the world, wherever retailers have gone, they have actually done 90 to 95% sourcing locally. This is going to make a tremendous difference to the manufacturing sector, because when you modernize retail, you also modernize the supply chain, you modernize suppliers. I mean, you go back and ask our suppliers who joined us in 1991 as to how well have they got equipped over the last 15, 20 years dealing with us, because we have put in technology, they have put in. So I think this is a very, very positive move, Misali.
Morning, Nagesh. Those are the principal areas of concern as well, and on which there will be opposition to allowing multi-brand retail. What happens to the retailer, the small town seller, the environmental concerns, etc., etc. Do you think in this discussion paper, retailers like you will be able, or the industry will be able to put forward a cogent kind of formula allaying these fears, which will allow the government, which seems intent on allowing some form of FDI in, to be able to push it through the stakeholders who are opposed to it today?
Yeah, if you look at it, I think there are basically 2 or 3 major concerns. I think one concern which everybody has is what happens to small retailers. But before we get into the discussion paper, let's understand the current issue. Most of the small retailers, the mom-pop shops, are not seeing the second generation coming into their store. So it's a matter of 10, 20 years when the second generation will not be there, and one employee is not going to join one employer. Okay, so there is a very, very big issue. The second issue is that the Indian consumer has started consuming many, many more assortments than what he was doing 5 years back. So a 600 to 800 square feet shop is not enough to provide the assortment. So consumer is going to go to shops where the assortments are larger, and maybe between Monday to Friday buy their top-ups or repeats from the small retailer. So fundamentally, because of what's happening to the consumers and what's happening to the family system in India, there is going to be a situation where the small retailers will start vanishing in 20, 30, 40 years. So it is important for us to start looking at the fundamentals and see how we can grow them. There are enough examples today in the country where the small retailers, their sons and daughters have added up more shops in the malls, and 5 years back a 1-store operation has now become a 3-store, 5-store operation. So malls have encouraged the second generation family members to get into retail in a more modern way. I think we have to look at these concerns. But to me the most important thing is that open up the FDI, provide some caps as far as the FDI is concerned, maybe ask them to see that there is a sourcing commitment, and see that it goes into tier 1, tier 2 cities as much before it goes into tier 3 cities. I'm sure this will encourage everybody else to put their foot forward and grow.
What would it mean for established retail players like Shoppers Stop, Pantaloon, in your eyes, Nagesh? Because the big guys will come in. Do you see it as an opportunity to get FDI into your companies, try and scale up, or do you see it as a threat? I mean, what's the right way to approach some amount of FDI for people who are entrenched already?
See, if you look at the existing players, there are 2 kinds of players. One are in the lifestyle segment and one are in the food segment. In the lifestyle segment, the people have really got entrenched very well. And if you look at what has happened to some of the foreign names which came in the last 2 to 3 years, some of them are wrapping up, some of them are really struggling. So just because you're a foreign name and you have large amount is not just sufficient. You have to play on the field, and I think the Indians have learned to play on the field. One of the reasons when one is saying of FDI and FII is you require many more players to come into the field. You require capital which is not only strategic capital through FDI, but also investment capital which comes through FII, so that the investment can be done. Now in the food sector, the investments are much larger. It takes much longer to break even, And therefore, I expect that the FDI response to the food and value retailing will be much more than the lifestyle retailing. And that's where you will see joint ventures, that's where you will see some collaborations to work forward, because the rollout has to be faster to get into scale. And that requires money with no definitive profit plans that you can see over the next 2 years. So it's more a risk capital.
Some of these big names, though, have already tied up with the other big names, right, Nagesh? I mean, someone like Pantaloon is in discussion with Carrefour. So would you say this time around there's less domestic opposition from the big guys in terms of FDI and retail? They would be as keen as the other guy to get it in?
I think so. I don't think there will be now opposition from the big guys on the FDI being brought in, because I think the big guys realize that to become bigger you require bigger monies.
There was also one point in the note released yesterday, Nagesh, that talked about earmarking 50% of the FDI into infrastructure or back-end activities. Is that the right way to go about it, you think?
See, maybe you should not say 50%, because it's a very difficult way to say that I'll put first 50 here at the back end and first 50 at the front end. I think if you allow FDI, you should say over the 5 years, the proportion of money which goes into investment has to go into long-term capital and short-term capital. To me, when you lease a store and put money into that, it's very short-term, 3-year leases, 6-year leases. But when you put money into large warehouses, I mean, it's long-term. So maybe that proportion can be built up over the years rather than saying 50. If you say over, let's say, 5 years, at least 35% of the total capital should have gone at the back end, I think would be a fair way to say. I mean, this is my just first cut view on a personal level. I think as an industry, we will deliberate these and probably reply to the DIPP note.
Your observation on lifestyle versus food retailing was interesting, Nagesh. Are you saying then that maybe the Walmarts and Tesco's are the big ones to watch here, because the Marks and Spencers of the world haven't really been able to make a major dent in existing retailers? In that sense, how do you see companies like you, Trent, Provoke even, panning out in a liberalized FDI scenario? Would you be partnering or seeking to partner with some of the big names in the West? Or do you think you're saying that you can stave off competition from them?
Well, I think initially, because we have a head start, we will be able to gain much better grounds than many of those brands when they come into the country. But I mean, today the world is all about collaboration. I mean, you may even end up running 2 chains. I mean, one chain that you're built up with 100% domestic fund, and the next one you're building up in a joint venture to ensure that you get a much larger footplate. I mean, those possibilities should not be ruled out. But the question is there an opportunity? Yes, there's an opportunity. Don't forget, all put together, we are not even 4-5% of the total market. And the market is growing by 7-8% at the national level. So all of us put together are not even able to capture the growth in the pie. Forget getting new share.
Thanks, Nagesh. Good luck to you. Thanks for stepping in today to explain what it could mean. That's FDI and retail. Some time away, but at least a first step seems to be have been taken by the government. Most of those stocks are up today.